Welcome to the debriefing for the revisit of the campaign that we conducted for 39 and 40. I continued through 1940 because I didn't have a conclusion, any firm conclusions after 1939. So let's look at what we have now. I'll just go through the changes to the playstyle that we have adopted throughout 1939 and 1940. And we'll look at how the infantry and tanks XP developed during 1940. We'll have a look at all relevant units after 1940. That is not just the infantry and tanks, but also AEA scouts and anti-tank guns, artillery and air units. We don't care; they don't have any problems getting XP. We'll also have a look at the prestige curves that we have for the two cases. That's the original and the redo. And some conclusions that we can draw. The changes to the playstyle, really it comes from the fact that Field Marshal is just surprisingly punishing. It's I underestimated when I first played through the Grand Campaign on Rommel-Manstein-Field Marshal difficulty, and I underestimated how severe Field Marshal would be. But also during the campaign I realized that there are things you can do that will significantly increase your XP gain. Which we didn't really adopt that until I started doing it seriously in 1942, and then it just became standard, but also I missed out on the effects for the first years of the campaign. First thing, we already do this when we play the campaign. We rotate units. We focus on, basically you can say that the guiding principle is that we deploy the units with the least XP if we can, and then we focus on getting XP on them. This rotation is essential when you play the campaign, especially when you play on Field Marshal. It becomes much more important because there's you're being severely punished with experience. Also, in the playstyle, we hit with the units that get the most XP, which is bloody annoying that you have to do that. For example, hitting entrenched infantry with tanks is a good way to get XP, but why are we doing that? Well, do it because we get XP. Normally I would hit with infantry, but infantry doesn't get much XP for hitting entrenched infantry because they attack against the close defense rating. So annoying, but necessary when you play at this difficulty level. We also, in the playstyle, we sacrifice some experience, so we sacrifice some of the prestige to get more XP. A good example is Sedan, where we chose not to capture some objectives because we wanted to get more focus on experience. So we are deliberately sacrificing some prestige to get more experience. And then, of course, as you know, if you watch the campaign, you know we farm intensely, especially infantry hitting heavy artillery or rocket artillery. And the reason why we get so much experience with that is that it is perceived as a risky attack by the not very clever experience formula. We hit a unit that can, especially rocket artillery, of course, that can severely damage our infantry. But practically it doesn't do anything because it's completely out initiative. But we do it, and we have done it here, but and we didn't do it that much in 39, but we did it much more in 40. Of course, not rocket artillery. We haven't even seen any rocket artillery yet. But that farming is essential, and it's annoying. And as already stated, if we hit artillery with infantry, we get XP. We get more XP by doing that. You will want some of it to be not suppressed when you hit, but you may not want to have the artillery completely unsuppressed because you might take return fire unless you have a sizable infantry unit that ensures suppression. But it's the unsuppressed that potentially can fire back but doesn't, that gives you the XP. We also hit soft targets with anti-tank guns. That is, if you go back to Piatek, we already know from that, and we knew that from the original playthrough, that hitting infantry with the 88s is actually a very good way to get XP on them, and it's pretty safe because the 88s have a lot of initiative. Just make sure that they don't fire back, because the soft attack rating on the 88s is not that good. But it's a pretty safe way to get XP, and you can at Field Marshal, you can at Piatek, you can go and watch it. You can get a star on both 88s in that battle. It's not that hard to do. And as I said already, if you hit infantry in close defense zones with tanks, you also get more XP. In this case, I would not recommend hitting infantry that can fire back, because the tanks will take damage. But even completely suppressed is a good way to get in XP on the tanks. Tanks hitting other tanks does not necessarily get a lot of XP, and the 88s hitting hard targets gets you almost nothing, because they're just firing with this massive attack strength against hard targets. So these are the things we have to consider, and of course it's annoying and we hate it, but it was what we had to do to get more XP. We did it. I adjusted to this as when I played through originally, but I didn't do it for the first couple of years, maybe for the first 3 years, but that's been changed now, at least for the first 2. Let's have a look at the experience gain for the infantry and tanks during 1940. To the left you can see the infantry. The original curve is the blue. That was what we had in the original playthrough, and you can see at the end of 1940 our average XP experience on infantry was below 300, and that, as you also saw in some of the presentations I've made earlier, there's a large spread in this. With the improved playstyle here, I'm not sure I would call it improved, but it's improved to increase experience. We start higher because we already adopted the principles in 1939, but we also increased the difference between the original and the redo. That's the green line, that's the difference between the two curves. You can see it increases over time. We start better in 1940, and we also increase over time. That means we picked up where we were ahead at the start of 1940 from the playstyle in 39, and we increased faster. Having them at the same, having this as a constant would not give us anything. That would just mean we would be doing the same as we did originally in the 1940s. So we can see we have improved it. We are increasing the experience gain, and you can see the straight line doesn't really work that well for the redo, which I will explain in a few seconds. But at least until some point, I think it was maybe the last time we evaluated, I had it like 29% faster experience gain with the revised playstyle. But you can also see that we hit the cap at the end of 1940. That's after the Maginot battle, and I should say that there's only all the infantry units here have 325 XP except Uladir. It's kind of ironic. Uladir had 322, so practically all infantry have hit the cap here, and which also we kind of projected that when the last time we looked at it. We were looking here, I think that was after Dunkirk. We could see that we projected that we would hit the cap, and we actually did, but we didn't hit it until Maginot, until after Maginot, and but pretty convincingly that's just a 3 XP missing on Uladir. Who cares? And you can also see as a consequence of that the experience line flattens, so that it doesn't increase much more. It doesn't increase that fast towards the end simply because we hit the cap. But the intention was to ideally hit the cap, and we did practically. So significantly improved. Here behind this curve we have actually infantry units that were only 2 stars, plenty of them. Here we are everybody above 3 stars and hit the cap. So great success. That's clear from this curve. For the tanks we were not too concerned with it, but we've actually also improved the tanks. We are on average above 3 stars. It's only Marshal who is sitting below 2 stars. So it's below 3 stars, and that doesn't matter. But this is just shown for reference. It's the infantry that matters. That's the challenging part. Part of the reason being that the tanks have much more time to get XP, because most of them are AC tanks, which will be deployed in every battle. So the tanks have an easier time. And Kasha has a lot of time to get to 5 stars, as we also saw in the original playthrough. Let's also have a look at at what we have after 1939 and after 1940. We start here to the left with our infantry and tanks. These are the curves for bar diagrams for infantry and tanks. You can see that after 1939 you will want to watch the 225 mark. That's the one here. We had at the end of 1939, as you also saw, we had in our redo, that's the red, those are the red bars, every infantry unit after 1939 was above 2 stars. And that was the objective we had. We did not hit the cap for all of them, but all of you hit the cap, as you can see. That's typical. And we had everybody above 2 stars, and you can see in the original playthrough we had 3 units that were struggling. Marshal, Drengr, and Zorro was struggling at the end of 1939, but we had everybody above 2 stars. For the tanks, we did a little bit better. We had 2 of them above 2 stars, but not really a concern. I mean, I was quite proud that I was able to get Gooseboy above 2 stars, but it's not really a big deal, because Gooseboy has the whole campaign to get to 5 stars, and he's in every battle. Same with the HQ, and Nars was not here at the end of 39. If we look at the same situation with infantry and tanks after 1940, you can see that practically all infantry units have hit the 325 mark, except for Oladier, who had only 322. And you can see that is significantly better than it was. It may not sound like a lot, but Mjølner was sitting at 210 when we at the end of 1940, and he is now at 325. That's a massive improvement. And pretty much they all hit the cap practically. For the tanks, you can see they all, except for Nars, all tanks went above 3 stars, which was also significantly improved. Not really an objective, but we did it simply because I tended to hit more with the tanks, that in doing hits that would gain more XP, and also we have adopted the principle that they get boosted when they first from 0 to 1 star. We try and boost them. If you look at our miscellaneous units, that's our scouts, our anti-aircraft guns, and the anti-tank guns. You can see that after 39, the scouts were in the revised playthrough, were pretty much hitting the experience cap. Not that important, but nice. And we had 3 of the AA guns above 2 stars after 39. That's a massive improvement, especially having both 88s and also having Bumper above 2 stars. That's a massive improvement. You can see in the original, Regis and Bumper were problematic because I think they only saw action for a couple of battles. That's Lillehammer and Narvik are the only battles where we get them into action, and only one of them was in action that was probably Bumper was in action in Narvik in the original. Here we had Bumper also in action at Narvik, but getting above 2 stars. And of course Lucanus and John Walker above 2 stars. It's very important with AA because they get that +2 attack strength per experience level, so it's very important. You can also see that our anti-tank guns did a little bit better, but not massively, and I'm not concerned with them. We know it's not difficult to get the anti-tank guns from 4 to 5 stars. You just let them run as artillery from 4 to 5. You're good. After 1940, you can see that both Goose and Koshevsky are above 3 stars. Slight improvement, but not critically important. All the AA guns except Regis almost made it to 3 stars, but he didn't because well, it's he could have done it statistically with a bit of luck at Reims, but he didn't. But that's should be easily fixed at the Belgrade battle. As you know, you can farm Sunjit, I think it's called. So really good performance with the AA. Almost all of them at 3 stars, which they were not in the original playthrough, so significantly improved. Our anti-tank guns are the only ones where we actually are worse off compared to what we were originally. We did manage to boost Fenris in the last battle, but it didn't get him to 3 stars. This is not a concern. We can get them to 3 stars in 1941. Not difficult. And as I already said, the most difficult XP level, of course, is 4 to 5, and they can just do that as artillery, which makes it quite easy. Let's also have a look at the prestige curves. You can see that we have the Rommel. I'm showing the Rommel curve as reference, but you should be a little bit careful by using it as a one-to-one comparison, because it's you can see, for example, it's sitting above the other curves early on. That tells me that my Rommel playthrough was maybe not optimal in the beginning. And also we use less overstrength than the Rommel playthrough, but it's just shown as a reference. You can see that the original curve is the green one. That's the one we have for our Rommel-Manstein-Field Marshal playthrough, and our revised is the purple curve, and you can see that it's about 1,000 lower at the end of 1940, which is not a surprise. We have sacrificed some prestige to get more XP. We have chosen not to capture some objectives, and we've added more overstrength, and we've used more elite replacements. But having a deficit of 1,000 here is not a problem. We know that at the end of the original playthrough campaign, we had 4,000 prestige we couldn't spend. So it is just the purpose is to illustrate that we have sacrificed prestige to get more XP, and it's a deliberate choice that we made. We can see how much it is here. We have it quantified here at around 1,000 after 1940, at the end of 1940. So that's good. Conclusions. Yeah, as you can see from the playthrough, and also as I said in the slides, it is possible to alter the playstyle to increase experience. We're not thrilled about doing it, but it's necessary when you play on against Field Marshal. You can alter the playstyle to increase experience, especially, of course, for infantry farming. Artillery is the big one. Through 1939, we saw limited push farming. That is, you hit artillery, push it back, and then it carries over suppression when it takes replacements. It was limited how much we could do in 39. We did much more in 40, especially the 105 and 155 millimeter artillery pieces. We saw that they get you a lot of XP. So that's the main reason why I also chose to play through 1940, because I didn't really establish a conclusion after 39. As I said already here, there were several of these 105 and 155 millimeter artillery in 1940 that I farmed, and it made a huge difference. If you go back and look at the Sedan battle, you can see how much experience Richard Martin got by hammering away at the 150. No, I think it was it 155 at Sedan? I think it was 155. So, big deal. And as you saw also from the experience, we hit the cap for practically all infantry at the end of 40, and that was really the objective that we had. Significantly improved compared to the original, and we hit the cap. We have also, as you can see from the experience, we have significantly increased the experience for all units except anti-tank guns, and the anti-tank guns are not a problem. Just don't have them at, don't sit at the beginning of 1941 with green anti-tank guns. That's too much of a challenge. You really want them to. If you play through 1941, I think you will want them to be at 3 stars at the end of 1941, because they really become. They are critically important in 1942. where our problems have, our tanks have problems with the Soviet tanks. I would say here we have an overwhelming proof of concept for the altered playstyle. That is, we managed to hit the cap for all infantry units. Playing the rest of the campaign from here doesn't add any value, and there's just too much farming. So it would take, as you know, it would probably take a year to do. So I will not play 1941. There's no point. The objective was to demonstrate that you can alter the playstyle, which we already did, but we just started quite late in the original playthrough. But you can alter the playstyle, and you can get a lot more experience. And I think it is shown with overwhelming. We have overwhelming evidence here that it really works when you play through 1939 and 1940, with emphasis on experience. You get, as I said, we hit the cap for all infantry. Of course, there's still a long way to go, but we have a much better starting point. That means our situation for getting all infantry above 5 stars should be possible when we start with this and continue playing like this throughout the campaign. Yeah, so I will not play 1941 here. There's just no point. We don't add anything. But I have something coming up which will be advertised within the next couple of days. Thank you for watching.